So glad to welcome Steve Silver.
Hey, Marty.
Very glad to see you here.
It's good to be here.
Appreciate it. Now, you're sort of a local guy. You live in the area. You're Candlewood Lake.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the time you spend in Naples. And I'm just fascinated by your story. Real quick, you had a consulting firm, and you retired incredibly wealthy at the young age of 55. And you got up one morning and had your second cup of coffee and said, what am I going to do the rest of my life? And then take us from there, if any of that is accurate.
I wouldn't necessarily go along with the incredibly wealthy part.
Oh, okay, I'm embellishing.
Yeah. So put that aside.
Okay.
But the rest of it is fair. Actually, retirement did come at 55. Today is my birthday, and I'm 66. Today.
Well, now it's official. Now you can retire.
I get Social Security now.
Right.
And I had an opportunity to retire before I had intended to. You're right, I had a consulting firm for about 30 years, and the junior partners in the firm invited me to buy me out in terms of my shares.
Right.
And it looked pretty good, and so I went along with it.
Okay.
And I had actually been considering for some period of time some type of a ministry that would integrate my interest in golf with my interest in sharing my faith.
Okay.
And I had been talking to my wife Sandy about this idea for 2 or 3 years. And when the proposition to buy out my shares in the firm that I founded came along, my first reaction wasn't favorable. And then I talked to Sandy about it, and she said, what have you been talking about doing?
This is your opportunity.
And I said, yeah, but this isn't the time.
Yeah.
She said, this is exactly the time.
Okay.
It may not be your time, but it's God's time.
Yeah.
So we went for the deal, and I was free. So we had been spending quite a bit of our time in Naples, Florida in the winters, and I had been making a lot of friends in my club down there. And I had for years been struggling with my inability to share my faith with the guys who I most enjoyed being with, which was my golf friends.
Right.
While I enjoy my church friends, they were never as much fun for me.
Are Christians,
as
by and
my
large,
golf friends.
boring people?
Not really, no. Actually, Christians are very interesting and exciting people, but they're not your fraternity brother.
Okay. So you wanted
maybe the problem
Animal House.
Maybe the problem was me.
You wanted something like Animal House meets Chariots of Fire, sort of a blending of the two worlds.
I wouldn't necessarily go along with the Animal House part of that.
Hold on one second, because as I read the New Testament, Jesus is going to parties. As a matter of fact, he's sought out for parties.
Right.
And when they ran out of wine, he had them bring some canisters of water, 24 gallons, I understand.
Right.
And he turned the water into wine, not just wine, but the best wine,
right.
which they usually serve first, and then they serve the bad stuff later.
Right.
So I don't know if that Animal House, as far as the enjoying a good party, and Chariots of Fire isn't too bad representation of
I would say
ministry.
calling Jesus a party animal might be a bit of a reach.
A little bit too much?
Yeah,
Jim Belushi equals you?
A little bit of a stretch.
Maybe Peter. Jim. All right, anyways, go ahead.
So anyway, these certainly were the guys who I really looked forward to being with.
Right.
And for many, many years, that's been the way it's been for me. But it's always has been problematic, and I'd always struggled with it. And so finally, I said, look, I've got time now, and this might be one of my greatest challenges of my life.
Okay.
To
blending those
sort of
two
integrate these two worlds that I love so much, my faith and fellowship world and my golf buddy world.
Okay.
And I didn't have too many models of men who've successfully pulled that off.
Okay.
So I assembled a few guys who I knew were strong believers, who I knew were strong golfers down in Naples. It was a small group. And I just threw the problem on the table. And I said, look, am I the only one who's thinking this way?
Right.
And they said, no, we have the same problem. Because they're kind of fun guys.
Yeah, yeah.
And I said, so look, why don't we try to figure this out and work on it a bit? Okay. So we started to talk and role play and pray and talk about how can we share our faith and open up this world of our faith to our girlfriends in a way that's not going to cause us to be unnatural.
Can I back up a second?
Sure.
You talk a lot about your faith. And your world and all that means to be a Christian.
Right.
Can you just tell us a little bit how that was manifested in your life? How did first of all, what does it mean to be a Christian? I mean, if I was raised in a Catholic home, does that mean I'm a Christian? If I'm an American, live in the suburbs, what does it mean from your perspective, from the Bible's perspective? What does it mean to be a Christian? You keep talking about this.
Right. So there really is the title of the book, New Man Journey.
Okay.
And the book, New Man Journey, attempts to unpack that question.
Okay.
What does it really mean to be a Christian?
Yeah.
And when Jesus was talking to Nicodemus,
right,
who was one of the ruling elders of the Jewish people at the time in Jerusalem, he said this extraordinary thing to Nicodemus. He said, Nicodemus, in order to be born, to enter the kingdom of heaven, you need to be born again. And this confounded Nicodemus. So he said, you really need to become a whole new creature, like literally a different kind of a birth. So I know that the word born again is very much of a lightning rod term, turns a lot of people off because it's got a lot of negative association. But that really is what it means to be a Christian. It means to have a completely new birth with the DNA, so to speak, of Jesus Christ, which is imbued in us through the Holy Spirit, and to follow Jesus and have a relationship with him in a new, fresh, unique way that was really never anything like what we knew before we were born again into that relationship. So a Christian is somebody who clearly follows Jesus Christ, seeks to have a deeper and closer personal relationship with him, and ultimately gives their life to him in service to him. And where their love for relationship with Jesus Christ becomes the centerpiece of everything about their life. It's their driving purpose. That's what it means to be a Christian. And anything short of that is Christian in name, but not in foundation.
And let's be honest, you deal with men that have accomplished things, that have donated to charities, that have raised families, that are honored in their businesses and in their families and communities, and yet still there's something missing. I just put a footnote there. I said it's kind of like a midlife crisis in your 70s, something like that.
But only when a man is given the opportunity to really face those questions in a overt way with other men who are considering the same things, can they start to explore that. If you were to take the average 65 or 70-year-old man, these men, what we have found, and this is sort of the heart of Men's Golf Fellowship, and it's really the heart of the methodology that I prescribe in the book. Men need to get together with other men. And men of faith need to get together with men who have not yet had that faith experience. And they need to explore mutually together. And when that happens, men really start to see things in living color. They start to see their life in actual perspective. The lies that they've been telling themselves about the meaningfulness of their lives outside of Christ start to become very real. When the Holy Spirit is sort of working the room with a small group of 8 to 10 to 12 men, extraordinary things start to happen, and men do start to see and realize that the game isn't what they thought it would be.
Yeah.
The outcomes aren't what they had hoped for, and the end game is a little frightening because they can't really say for certain as they contemplate dying in the next 5, 10, 15 years what's on the other side of that. And so it is so wonderful when men can come together and explore this topic in a way that they perhaps never, ever have had a chance to explore with other men in their entire life, with all of their success.
So you got together 10 years ago approximately with 8 men talking about how can I share this message, this beautiful gospel of Jesus Christ,
renewal
with
in Christ.
Essentially my golf buddies. But as you mentioned in another place, it could be your tennis buddies, could be your fishing buddies, could be your business friends, could be whatever interest
whoever
group
your
it is.
circle is.
There's nothing redemptive about the game of golf.
No.
As a matter of fact, it might be the opposite.
No. The point is that we all, as men, have a group of people who we care about a great deal. Who is our circle? And those are the people, if we have a relationship with Christ, who we should be most interested in exploring this wonderful news about Christ with. So we started with 8, and we have 1,000 now.
That's what I was saying.
Actively involved.
After 10 years, and the program is you'll have a breakfast usually.
We have 10 breakfasts, and we bring in prominent speakers.
And when you say prominent speakers, I mean you're not kidding. Jim Lane, Ralph Reed, Governor of the state of Florida, for golfers out there, Bernard Longer, Tom Lehman. I mean, these are some pretty impressive heavy hitters.
Well, what happens is guys who are getting excited about their newly found faith are bringing their golf friends, and their friends will come to the breakfast because they want to hear these speakers. They want to hear what they have to say, not about their faith, but about their professional life.
Sometimes in the bulk of your life, you're busy, you're paying bills, paying mortgage, getting kids through college, and going. You never take a point to just say, hey, let me look at the big picture here.
Exactly.
But that's what you
and so there's no better time than when you don't have all of those other stresses and you can't put it off anymore, and you really have time to explore something substantive. And retirement is the ideal time to do that. So with these breakfasts we have these 10, and we get 200 to 300 men coming, but then we have private discussion groups in the private clubs all around Naples, and we call them God and Life discussion groups, where golf friends are getting together every week and they're talking about these issues. We're providing them with material, with videos, with content, with questions, facilitation training. So we've got all of this sort of young life for adults.
That's great. The book is New Man Journey. The ministry, if you want to go to the website, it's an incredibly interactive website. You really get to see highlights of some people that have been there. Is newmanjourney.com. I encourage you to go. I encourage you. If this, I'd like to think that this show gets around quite a bit. I don't think it's an accident that you're sitting in your basement right now watching this program, and this fine gentleman comes on and talks about some of these issues. But it's something that we'd like you to look into and consider. Again, New Man Journey. The author is Steve Silver, and he's been our guest for this hour. And I just want to thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks, Marty.
Appreciate it.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you again, too.